is the call. All right, let's get it. Let's get it. So I'll share my screen here a little bit, kind of showing you guys these bullet points. But the title of today's call is Setting the Right Expectations as the Mentee and the Student. And this is different than last week, because last week you were setting your, what we did, and let me just break this down so you understand the difference. Last week, what we did is we set the right expectations around how you see what we have. How do you view the money objection, right? How do you view the time objection? How do you view, I don't believe, I don't understand. How do you perceive those things for yourself, not even for other people? Because if how you believe in, the cost of what we do, or the amount of time that it maybe will take, or the results, that, maybe you have, and you're projecting that on other people, that's going to influence the way that you speak to your prospects, that you speak to your team. So we had to become aware of what were those internal blocks, those limiting beliefs that we maybe have around what we're actually doing that maybe we're not conscious of, subconscious, and we're defaulting to that fear-based, monologue narrative that we have, and it's bleeding into everything else that we do. That's scarcity mentality. Okay. So today it's a little different. What I'm going to be speaking on, and this was extremely, you can ask Alex, who was there with us. This was very, very important conversation. The difference between, or I wouldn't even say the difference, I would say the relationship between the mentee and the mentor. And when I say this, guys, I'm not coming from a place of, maybe in a small way because of some of the information I get to you, but I don't really look at myself as a mentor. Like, if you really understand like what a mentor is, I'm not there yet. Okay. None of us are on this call are there yet. But as a mentee and student to the information, to the instruction, that's what I'm talking about. Whether it's, I'm the mouthpiece to the message and I'm giving you that right now, or you listen to an audio that was directed or given to you, or whatever the case is, right? You look up to certain people in this profession and what we do, and you role model after them, or you want to role model after them, and they give instruction. I'm going to break this down. Okay. I'm going to just first off say it takes a tremendous amount of humility to stay a student. And I'm gonna talk about this because when we were going through this, we were listening to this, my mind was blown, because I got to tell y'all, this last week, and I'm just gonna be transparent. I'm gonna be a little vulnerable with you, because it was a nice little ego hit for Abby. Okay. I really had to take a huge step back, even if it didn't seem like it. I personally had to take a huge step back this week, and I'm going to break this down here so you guys can better understand. But I had to realize, you go through certain phases in your life, certain seasons, certain things will happen, and a certain amount of time will pass. And sometimes for people, a certain amount of time will pass, and you will get discouraged and you'll go back in your complacent comfort zone. For me, a certain amount of time has passed. What I'm trying to say by that is not seeing the results in the business that I want, to recognize, you have got to do something different. You have to change, like actually change. Stop saying that you're going to change and actually change. The patterns that you've been, executing and showing from your belief system into physical action and result are now being, let's say, exposed. You're not chairman yet. And I'm not saying, if you haven't hit this certain rank, it's a bad thing or anything like that. I'm just saying, okay, look at where you're at in the game so far. Where do you want to go? What sort of changes need to be made? Okay. This past week, it was a huge level of humility that I had to, just that humble pill that I had to swallow. And really check myself, really do a self-audit, a self-evaluation, the patterns that I've been having, thoughts, my thought patterns, my actions, things like that, and where it's got me today. And completely, this is the part that I could never just accept. And I'm gonna give it to you guys right now. Is you guys ever heard people say, I've definitely heard Mike Sotero talk about it, Jason Brown, Matt Rosa, but I never got fully on board. And I think that's a huge reason why, maybe I don't have the results in the business that I want, right? But being able to fully submit to mentorship, to your mentor, to, whatever instruction you're being given. And I'll talk to you guys about this, but I wanted to start off with that. Okay. It takes a tremendous level of humility to stay a student. in the game, no matter what season that you're going through. Okay. And let's break that down. I'm going to ask you guys some questions. I really don't want to share all this with you because I don't want you to jump ahead. So I'll share my screen because this is important. I'll share my screen so you guys can get this down. All right. Okay. First question that I have up here. Do you have a mindset of a student in all that you do? Some examples that I put up here. This is not just exclusive to these examples. This is just a few. Do you show up hungry to learn? Obviously, you guys are on this call. Some of y'all, it's 9 a.m., 8 a.m., 7 a.m., 6 a.m., okay? You guys are here for a reason. Do you show up, not just these calls, everything and all that you do, hungry to learn? What is your mindset like when you show up to calls like these? The Sunday night call with Mike or whoever's hosting it. The leadership call that happens on Wednesdays, okay? We get to learn from chairman, things like that, whatever the case is. Do you show up hungry to learn? Are you coachable to follow instructions? Okay. What is your willingness to change? I meant to put this on the other line, but what is, how resourceful are you to find the answer? I heard this said, yeah, I'm going to give you guys probably, maybe if you have people on your team, maybe you've probably seen this before. Maybe you've even seen it in yourself. Okay. But being resourceful to find the answer. Look, leaders find the answer. You want something bad enough, you find the answer. Let's be real. You want something bad enough, you'll figure it out. But if that's not a priority, you just won't make it happen. Okay. I could give a million examples. I'm gonna just keep it there. But being resourceful to figure it out, to make it happen. And lastly, humble enough to listen and submit. And these are not easy things to do. These are not easy things to make a part of yourself. I said this to somebody the other day that I learned, making growth and productivity a lifestyle. Why? It's like growing isn't something that I do. Being productive isn't something that I do. It's who I am. Working out isn't something that I do. It's who I am. Y'all get it? Like, it's different. So we don't want to make these things just I know I have all that you do, but like, you get what I'm saying? These are not just things that you do. These are things that you make who you are. It's your entire essence of your being. You're willing to change. You're willing to follow instructions. You're willing to, you're showing up hungry to learn, things like that. Okay. Do you have the mindset of a student? This is so important. And I have this as the first question because you can't even go to the next level in your mentorship, in like being the mentee to the mentorship, until you get this right. Okay. So I'm going to give you the next question. Got that? Okay. Next question. Do you show up when you want? Or, like when it's convenient for you? Do you show up late to things? This is just a question. Okay. How do you show up? Do you have the mindset of like when we show up to calls like these, or let's say somebody gives you an audio to listen to or a book to read? I was this person all the time. Okay. This is like I'll be checking myself in real time in front of you. All right. What's your mindset when you're given a piece of information or a tool or a reference or a resource or instruction? Do you take advantage of it? Do you leverage it? Do you put it to work right away? Do you go read it right away? What's your take? How's your mindset on it? Do you say, I already know this? I've heard this before. I know what Abby's going to say on the call this morning. I already know. I know what they're going to say. Oh, I'm not going to that event. I already know what they're going to do. David and Mentee is going to do his, you got to believe, count to 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, and then you guys jump up and down. Like, I already know what they're going to do. There's a difference. I'm going to say this. There's a difference between awareness and mastery. There's a difference between awareness and mastery. A lot of us will say that I'm just saying this because I've thought this too. Okay. A lot of us will think that we know things, but there's a difference between knowing something and having your results back it up. Yeah, you actually know it, and saying, oh, I know this, but there's nothing to show for it. That makes sense. You don't really know something unless you've applied it and gotten a result. And I would really go far to say gotten a result, like repeatedly. Can you duplicate that result? Because it's cool if you do it. Can you duplicate it? Cool. All right, we're going to move on. It's kind of self-explanatory, but it's very, very important, because if this is the type of self-thought, like talk that you have inside your head, that's got to change if we want to go to the next level that you guys say that you want. Okay. All right. These are a couple of things that I wrote down. If you don't have the right mindset, you will not be able to receive the instruction. If you don't have the right mindset, you will not be able to receive the instruction. Is important. Let me break some of this stuff down. Sometimes, I just said that, sometimes we can confuse awareness with mastery, thinking that you know things, but have you mastered it? Okay. Have you put in the time, the practice, the effort? This is big. If you have a hard time listening to your mentors, to the instructions, then you will also have a hard time listening to your team and your prospects. I'll give you a great example. Your prospects are giving you an objection, and you're only hearing one thing. You're answering the objection that you want to answer. Or maybe you're following the script too much that you're not being able to gauge where you're at in the conversation. Maybe it's not time to say that next line that's in the script. Okay. Building this business takes more than just following a script and maybe, learning the skills. It takes a heart to listen. Like, you know what I mean? Like being a real human being, being a person, using, just using your ability to relate to people. And that takes you having to really know like your story. Your story is where you were before you got started, why you made that decision to do something different in the first place. Where are you going? What are you excited about? What progress, what growth have you made so far? Okay. This is the next one here, guys. This is huge. And this is all tying into this one little statement right here. And this is very important. This actually kind of goes back to this question right here. Okay. Do you cherry pick the instructions that are given to you? This was a big one. This was a big one for me. Do you cherry pick the instructions that are given to you? Only doing what you want. Here, let me give a great example. You asked, let's say your mentor, whoever, for the recipe because you liked the result. But now you're changing up the recipe. Okay. You want to make a cake. Cake's made a certain way. Recipe calls for you to turn the oven on 425 degrees, but you're like, that's too high. Let's do 375. I don't want to add that vanilla extract. That seems weird. You know what I'm saying? Like you're switching it up. You're cherry picking. You're doing certain things. Like you're not doing all the instructions. You're not following the recipe for the result. And another great example, anybody ever done the 75 hard or heard of the 75 hard? I remember, this is so funny. This is how I know that my mindset wasn't like up to par where it needed to be. This was like 2 years ago when we first did the 75 hard. I remember getting a 75 hard, and I remember seeing the list of things that we had to do before I listened to the audio. So I was looking at the list of things to do, and it had like 2 45-minute workouts, no alcohol, no like sweets, no junk food, read 10 pages a day, like the whole list, right? And I was already like, guys, I was already thinking, maybe I'll do this, but I'll take out a workout. Or, maybe I just won't do this far. Or maybe, I'll eat like a snack like every Saturday or something. I was already like subconsciously saying that to myself. And then I listened to the audio, and one of the first things he said, if you listen to the audio, is like, you're not going to cherry pick this shit. Like, you're not going to, like, that's why you're losing, is because you're cherry picking, because you're not following the full recipe. He said it in a different way. Andy Frisella doesn't speak like what I just said. But that's essentially what he was saying. Okay. This is huge. This is huge. If you are given instructions, don't try to tweak it. Don't try to, do your own flair. I have a habit of doing this. I'm gonna be honest. Like I'm really good about putting things to work, putting them into action, and like kind of catching my groove a little bit. And then I'll get too ahead of myself, and I'll try to add my own like flavor to things. I think I do that a little bit too early. And I'm cool with telling that to y'all, because I think it's important. Some people like will say, oh, you don't want to like show yourself too vulnerable. I think it's important. And I learned this from the weekend, guys. I'm going to say this. I learned this over the weekend with Jason and Matt. You got to be a little bit vulnerable with your team. You got to be a little transparent with your team. You don't have to share everything, But I think it's important that you guys know, like, hey, I've been there and I know what that feels like. I'm guilty of that too. Okay. All right. So this is very important. All I can say is don't cherry pick. If instructions are given, follow the full instructions. The next part, the soil. Okay. You guys remember we had that call about the soil and the seeds. Okay. The soil is your mind, and your mind, the soil has to be receptive to grow and be fruitful. If you don't continue to take care of the soil, it will harden. And when instruction is given, the seeds that you're also given will not be landing on the soil ready for growth. I know that seems a little common sense, but how's your soil? How's the landing zone for seeds in your mind? Is it receptive to grow? Are you receptive to grow when given instructions? I don't know. But the seeds that you're given will not be landing on the soil ready to grow if you're not open to receiving the information, if you're trying to cherry pick, if you're not listening, okay? If you're confusing this with this. Cool? All right, last couple questions. These are pretty much the same thing, just in a different way. And I hope what you guys are getting out of this is a sense of awareness of where you're at. Sense of awareness where you're at and where you're going based on what you've been currently doing. How are you thinking when things are going well in your business? Even personal, okay? How are you thinking when things are going well in your business? What thought patterns are you having? What thought patterns are going on when things are going well in your life? When things are going well, think about those times. When things are going well, how's your communication? How's your attitude? How's your mood? How's your character? How's your consistency, your perspective, your focus, your belief? Okay. It's very easy. It's very easy to, I shouldn't even say easy, but like, it's very easy to have these things, to be able to do these things when things are going well. You don't have anything hindering your beliefs. You don't have anything hindering your self-doubt, fear, worry, because things are going well. Okay. Now the flip side, how are you thinking when things aren't going so well in your business? How are you thinking when things aren't going so well in your business? This is huge because there's a reason why I put this last, is because when things aren't going well in your life, like that's when look, we all know this quote, whatever the masses do, do the opposite. Well, whatever the masses do, I'm gonna tell y'all right now, when things aren't going well for them in their life, they don't communicate. They have a poor attitude. Their mood is all over the place. Their character's out of whack. They're not consistent. They don't have the right perspective. Okay, they're blowing things out of proportion. They're really sensitive. They're on the defense. Okay, they're not focused, and their belief is trash. Like I've seen, and this is why, like what I'm about to share with you is like really, really, really important. But this is why adversity and problems are so essential to not just building this business, but to life, because it shows you who you are. You don't really know who you are until you grow through adversity, until you hit a brick wall, until you lose people in your business. Guys, I told somebody the other day, we had last week 4 people on the same day tell us they're leaving the business and not going to Palm Beach. How would you have responded? It's part of the game, baby. I said, bring it on. Like, if 4 people are going to leave in a day, how many more are about to come in? Like, what's chairman? You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you handle those types of things? I'm telling you that because that's just one example. I haven't even given you like the real stuff that's really tested me. This is going to test you. And I'm saying this on this call right now, and you guys have heard this before. It's not just for me. How do you handle the test? And it sounds so cliche to say it like that, but like I left this as the last part because this is what holds a lot of people back. I mean, all this is really important. Don't get me wrong. You have to have the right mindset. Are you showing up as a student? Are you like, do you have these in your repertoire? Like, are you humble enough to listen and submit? Are you resourceful to find the answer, willing to change, coachable to follow instructions? Are you showing up hungry to learn? Okay. Do you how's your mindset when you're getting information for the 100th time? Listening to the Zoom overview, y'all that show up to the AZ events, hearing the presentation every single week. Okay. It's redundant, but can you do the whole thing? Right? Like, that's the point of hearing it over and over and over again. Not saying I already know this, not saying I've heard this before. That's what the masses say. That's what the average Joe says. Hopefully nobody on this call is named Joe. Y'all get my point, right? You have the right mindset. Otherwise you won't be able to receive the instruction. You won't be able to actually hear and listen to what we're saying. It's easy to have these things in check when the business is well, when things are going up, when life is good. But when things are difficult, when things aren't going so well, when you have people on your team not listening, not communicating, not showing up, leaving you on red. Okay, guys, I've been there, telling you they're done, telling you the same reason they got started is the same reason they're quitting. What are you going to say? How do you handle those things? Some of you guys on this call, maybe you haven't experienced some of these things yet, or many of these things yet, and that's okay. I'm giving you a little foresight of what's going to come so you can expect it. You can be ready for it. You can be already prepared mentally for those things to happen. So it's not a big deal. I've already been there before. But this is something that they said. When things are great, you don't need leadership. I think you still do, but you get my drift. This is what they said. When things are great, you don't need leadership. It's easy to be happy and good when you don't have problems. But if you're always retreating, you make a pattern of this. It's not one time. It's okay, one time. But you make a pattern of this. This is why you have the results that you have. But if you always retreat, you always go ghost. Okay, you always stop showing up when things get tough. Okay, then you never allow yourself to really grow through the pain in your process and your problems and your adversity. And like I said before, you don't really know who you are because you haven't allowed yourself to grow through the tests of time. And I think something even bigger than that, I shouldn't say more bigger, but more like definitely important, your mentors, your team, they don't even really know who they're dealing with. If you help somebody get started, but you've never experienced a level of adversity in the business yet, it's okay if you haven't, because maybe day one you get started and you help somebody get started day one or first week. You haven't really felt any adversity yet, so it's okay. But your team doesn't really know who they're dealing with, who you are, who you don't even know who you are until you grow through some of those problems that you're going to experience. Okay, until you show up to grow up through each level of adversity. Okay, but I think this is really important, guys, because I can tell you a lot of times when I've had relationships with people and they go through maybe D ranks in their business, guys, I had it written down the other day. It's in one of my notebooks. But like, you don't really hit a rank until you D rank. So some of y'all are going to catch that. You don't really rank advance until you've D ranked. That's where the problems are at. Like, I will tell you right now, if you've ever D ranked, maybe you're D ranked right now, okay? It's a blessing because now you get to realize all the problems that you had like on the surface that you never really built a foundation for. And I'm not going to go into too much detail on this, but I do want you guys to understand, like, a lot of this stuff, wherever you're at, based on the questions that I just kind of went over with you, it's going to be very important that you just get super real. All these calls are about getting real with yourself. You cannot grow if you aren't real. You cannot fix what you do not confront, and you cannot heal what you keep hiding. This past week, I had to get super real about where Abby has been, the lack of certain things that I've been having with myself and my relationship, maybe with my mentors. And I'll tell you guys, like, you can follow my footsteps. I don't want you to believe what I'm going to say, because I'm just going to do it. You can follow what I'm going to do and the results that I'm backing up with it. But humble enough to like really submit myself to my mentors, like Christian. being able to fully submit to his mentorship. And when I say mentorship, I say instruction, to his instruction. Whatever he says, I'm doing. He says we're reading, the book's out there, but we're reading that book, Secrets to the Millionaire Mind. I'm reading that. Like, he says, read it. We are already reading it. Like, whatever audio he sends out, I'm watching it. Whatever instruction he told me the other day, I sent him a message. This is the last thing I'll say, and then we'll wrap up the call. But he sent me a text the other day because I had asked him about setting the right expectations. I think my question was like setting the right expectations or speeding up my turnaround time to getting people started, something like that. And so he had said, I want you, like, he said a bunch of things. And then he said, I want you to write out what the perfect pipeline, like conversation pipeline would look like. And I was like, this is how, okay, guys, this is how I know. My first initial thought was, I already know that. I'm just being real with you guys, but I had to check myself. Write out your perfect pipeline. My first initial subconscious thought I couldn't catch because it was just like there, I'm still working on it, was I already know that. I watched the video 100 times, but what I did, it's over there. All my notebooks are right over there. But I was going to show you, right after he texted, I was like, because you had that thought, go write that shit out. Go write it out and go write it out again and write it in detail. And then write it in simple terms. And then write it out for what it really is. Like, I'm telling y'all this because like, this is real life shit that I'm giving you guys because we don't maybe realize it in the moment. Maybe we don't check ourselves in the moment, but it happens. And a lot of times it's holding us back. Okay. So from today's call, guys, I really hope that you guys got maybe one piece of value, one perspective shift, one, sense of, elevation in your mindset and sense of awareness about yourself with how maybe you're responding to instruction or how you've been responding and the changes that need to be made. Because I can tell you right now, this is what all these calls that we're doing, guys, it's supposed to build on each other. So there's maybe some overlap when I have conversation. But I'm hoping that this call today gave you that level of awareness that you needed. Maybe just one little thing that you can take from this call and apply it so that you can make sure when you are given instruction, the next time you're given instruction, you're taking action on it. You're not cookie cutter, doing the cookie cutter thing with 1, 2, 3. Oh, I'm only going to do 2, or I'm only going to do 1, or whatever. You're following it for what it fully is, for what it truly is. So you can actually get the truth in the results. You can actually get real results. But guys, I want to close it out. I really appreciate you guys for, just being here this weekend, just showing up to these calls, making these a priority, and being here on time. I think that's one of the biggest things, because how you do anything is how you do everything. And when you show up to calls like these, you're showing me that I should be focused on you to work with you. Number one, you value our relationship, you respect our relationship, you already know it's mutual. Like, I got all the love and appreciation for you guys. But it's so much bigger and deeper than that, because I know that you guys on this call, you're looking for a higher level of contribution. You're looking for a deeper level of maybe servanthood or leadership growth, and being able to really make an impact, really be able to help other people and grow yourself in the process. But I'm grateful that you guys, take this seriously and really show up to these calls ready to learn, ready to grow. But I think the biggest thing that you guys can take from this is just understand that being a student is going to require a tremendous amount of humility. Like I keep saying that is something that we embody, that a tremendous amount of humility. Don't joke around with it, because you're going to be in a moment where you're not going to want to listen or have instruction. Take the instruction, and you have to check your humility, check your submission to that instruction, especially if it's something that you say that you want. But guys, just a little recap, or I guess overview going into this week. Sunday night team call with Mike Sotero tomorrow. Today, if you're in Arizona and you can make it, there is a huge Super Saturday with like 10 different educators. Cobain's going to be here. I know a lot of other, I just can't think of all of them, but I just know Cobain because I'm excited to see him. He's going to be here in town. It's going to be insane. It's right down the street in Tempe. So you guys can make it, come out today. And then the other thing too, guys, if you don't have your, oh my God, let me stop recording this.